Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks in another match of Beyond All Reason, where today we are taking a look at the proposed balance changes live in a match that was sent on over in the replays channel over on my Discord. This is going to be a bit of an interesting one. We're going to be a little bit more analytical here, just as far as kind of comparing some of the strategies we see here today, but it should be a good, exciting match because we do have all three factions making a showcasing Legion, Armada, and Cortex alike. All going to be playing here on Pinch Point, a wonderful little map to showcase all this stuff, as we do have two very dynamic lanes in the midsection, and of course those two wide open Navy lanes on the north and southern side. So keep an open mind as we dive into this match here today, where spawning as our blue team leader in Cortex Blue, it's going to be Muha, or maybe it's like Muhaha, or like Muha, or something like that. Anyways, Muha, the blue 35 open skill commander, going to be leading our blue team here today, spawning right up on the front lines here of Pinch Point. This is always a bit of a contentious position because you have to fight through this little water lane over towards your enemy, but you also have to deal with naval harassment. And well, anybody that's gone up against Navy from the land knows just how dangerous that does tend to be. Spawning on the other side, basically the entire opposite side of the map, in the water, it's going to be Vitrex. Vitrex, the red 35 open skill Armada commander, going to be going for some good old-fashioned Armada Navy, which is actually pretty surprising. If many of you have been keeping up with the Navy scene in Beyond All Reason, Armada Navy tends to be a little bit troublesome. Although I will say this map has a little bit more maneuverability than some others. It's still pretty tight, though. Some of these choke points are still very close. If you have the maneuverability, Armada, frigates, and destroyers can get a lot of jump on the core if you can manage to position them correctly. But there's only so much room here. You really have to take a fight in this big center area. A wise core commander would know not to. We'll have to see what happens here, though. We also have some Legion commanders in our mix, like Noids, for instance, who's going to be showing us some good old-fashioned Legion gaming, as we try and spot, if we can tell, what the major differences are here today in the newest balance patch. To go over it very briefly, I think probably the largest and most impactful change is that fusions and asolars got rebalanced. A little bit of aggression here. Some pawns and grunts come out of the lab, but we'll take a second here to have a look at exactly what these do look like. So there you go. You can see these are 350 metal a pop. Yeah, they're, so basically the way the balance changed, I'm actually, now that I'm looking at it, I can't remember if that's the old price or not. Maybe this is a game to refresh us on what it looks like before we get the balance update. Anyways, the idea of the balance update is that fusion reactors will be reduced in production. They will also be reduced in cost. So they're not going to be the giant jump forward that they normally are. Instead, they're going to be a actually less efficient, as far as energy production per metal goes, version of energy scaling compared to advanced solar panels. And then advanced fusion reactors will, of course, remain the king of energy production on land. Now that changes a lot because it means that scaling asolars does make a lot of sense. It means that all of a sudden you have these super efficient structures for scaling up that energy, and you don't have to tech up in order to do that. So you can have a much more reliable early tech rather than going for sort of a late game T2 to get a very stable T2 energy up and running. It'll change a lot about the way the game goes. There's also a lot of other balance changes. One of the other most notable ones is that the T2 laboratories are getting a huge build power increase. What that means effectively is that they are much more difficult to build. They cost a lot more build power. It means that when you go to build it with construction towers, you'll need more construction towers. It's kind of difficult to explain. There's a third resource in Beyond All Reason that is not often talked about, but it's basically how much build power something has. For instance, when we get a chance to look at a construction tower here, you can see this has 200 build power. Every constructor in the game has a certain amount of build power, and that all matters. But I think that's pretty much, I mean, if you'd like the in-depth notes, you're always welcome to go have a look at those. Those are posted over on the official Beyond a Reason channel. There's a link to that in the description. There's also going to be plenty of folks talking about it in my Discord channel, which is also linked down below. Again, you're more than welcome to go have a look at all of that if you're curious. Now we're off to a ripping start here, as we do have a single hero grunt that's managed to make it in the backline, shutting down all of the wind turbines here for our pink commander, Brutar Shan. Also, the metal extractors go down here as well. Commander manages to stabilize the front line pretty nicely, but at the end of the day, all the mexes and all the wind turbines down certainly hurts quite a lot. Mohal RQ taking some hits here from the maces coming out from Kayuturyo, something like that. Commanders blasting away at each other, and we have the maces firing away. Does mean that this is actually a pretty good spot for the brown commander. We just don't want to lose the commander. Yep. Nice micro. Hey, manages to get out with the commander alive. Fantastic stuff. Enemy units are pushing in right here, so we need some reinforcements. The maces are a little bit late on the draw. The brown commander is certainly wondering where these pink units are going to come from. Are they going to help out? Are they going to stand and watch this poor brown commander go down? 1 Deacon away, 2 Deacons away, and a third to round it out. Mace's super troubling, though. If we can Deacon these down before they can do anything. We're going to go for an LLT, but that's so difficult. Yeah, we're completely surrounded at this point. Boom goes the brown commander as well. Okay. It comes down to Brutar Shan, who needs to get out there and reclaim now not just 1, but 2 commander corpses from this front line. Meanwhile, it looks like the yellow commander has gone for some Decurion spam. The agitators are quite nice against this. Of course, they can outrange those Decurion. The further away from a Decurion you stand, the less damage that it does because it misses those shots. There's some weird micro that has to go on for all of that, but anyways. Those agitators, aggravators rather, firing into the distance. They want to hit that commander down to 41% HP is the primary target, but if they can just chip away at those Decurion for a good long while too, that's not going to be the end of the world. Noid's doing the very best to repair. But this is a wonderful spot right here for the blue commander. Taking the wide engagement here, allowing those rocket bots to fire away. Absolutely no splash on those Decurion, but if those bullets, if your units are too close together, the bullet might miss and just hit one of your other units instead, which can be just as painful as splash damage. As far as the Navy battle goes, we have 2 passive commanders going on right here. We have 2 naval battles on the southern side. We have, or rather, 2 naval battles in general, but on the southern side we have Armada versus Legion. On the northern side we have Armada versus Legion as well. No Cortex whatsoever in this game as far as Navy goes is a little bit bizarre. Kind of unheard of, actually. Really, really rare you see a Navy game that doesn't end up going to Cortex at some point. I mean, the Legion commanders will get there eventually, but for now, we do have a chance to have a look at some of these Legion boats. Yeah, those very, very powerful frigate destroyers, or rather frigate torpedo launchers. A little bit of subtle missile tracking on those as well makes them very, very good at hitting slightly more mobile targets. A little bit better than, for instance, the regular like frigates would be with their plasma cannons. Quite a lot less damage, but the trade-off, of course, being that they can also hit submerged vehicles, which are super, super useful. Killing submarines, also killing metal extractors, really important. Managing to pull that off is huge. Blue Commander caught in a weird situation here where if you just try and fight these Decurion head-on, it gets a little bit risky. The Decurion, once they snowball pretty badly, they can put in a lot of work. They can hurt really, really bad. And with just 1 commander to repair them, you can see that they're super, super tanky here as well. Yeah, just microing back the injured ones and repairing them back up. They have super low build costs, so it doesn't take very long at all to repair these back up. One of those changes that I was really surprised to see wasn't made was an increase in build cost of these. I think across the board, basically everything got a build cost increase. But I don't believe the Decurion did, or at the very least it wasn't a big one. Again, if you're one of the folks that's more interested in like the detailed specs, I would say to go check out the official post about it, the official details, because that's where all the best information is going to be coming from. Green Commander actually setting up a forward lab is so funny here. Not something I would recommend most folks do, but it does kind of make sense right here. We have the Commander Corpse that must have been sniped by the boats over here. We have the metal lying in the bottom of the ocean. We need to get reinforcements on the field any what way possible. And the best way to do that is to put units on the field as close to the front line as you can. So launch, despite this technically being inefficient, it's like an inefficiency that's counteracted by the efficiency of getting those units to the field so much faster than the red commander is going to be able to. Heat ray destroyers firing off those photon beams, piercing the whole armor here of the battleship, or the destroyer rather, the Corsair destroyer over here. Nice micro from the red commander, pulling that back in time to repair it. These Legion battleships benefit a lot from being spread out. Most units do, but the Legion stuff especially. And I'll give it here to the blue team for taking control over the midsection of the map. We've managed to lock down both of the 5.2 metal extractors in the midsection of the map. The army firing away here with the napalm. If it hits a unit, it will burn underwater. If it doesn't hit a unit, it doesn't burn underwater, as you can see. Some weird math going on there, but anyways, the Decurion are still strong. There's kind of 2 ways you can beat Decurion. You can outproduce them early on. You can take some really, really early trades. Sometimes that's enough. The other option is to go for T2 and try and kill them with T2. But you got to be wary. Even T2 can sometimes struggle against those Decurion. Yeah, we want that commander. If Noids falls right here, I mean, that's obviously another great way to kill these. giant thermonuclear explosion in the middle of the ball of Decurion will work. Legion Navy pushing forward right here. Looks like Vertrex has lost the naval battle. This is a rough moment right here for the Red Commander. Has a little bit of build power in the back line. No eco-skilling, though, so we never went for, like, more tidal generators or anything like that. Looks like the Hot Pink Commander is paying attention, though. That's Sky Sovereign, and is going to be producing a whole bunch of platypus to hopefully try and clean all this up. Now, the platypus have a secret weapon. And that would, of course, bombing run. Hey, actually does connect quite nicely with those heat ray destroyers. The platypus have a secret weapon, and that is the fact that they are technically amphibious, or no, they are hovercraft. I don't know what that code is called, but they are effectively they work like hovercraft. They don't actually have any feet in the water. They sit just on top of the water, which means these torpedo boats can't fire at them. Yeah, look at that. So that's one of those interactions that a lot of folks were asking me about. Some questions definitely arose about it. What about hovercraft versus Legion Navy? And the answer is absolutely, it works quite well. The only problem is those heat ray destroyers are still quite wicked. Blasting through the armor right here of these platypus, they fire frequently enough too that they can kind of deal with spam. Not to mention, of course, that the little drones that they have are quite good here too. More of these bombers coming out. We do have the anti-air boat, but it's firing too slowly here. Managed to shoot down one of those and probably save one destroyer. But at the end of the day, those are actually some pretty good bombing runs. Ugh, the anti-air boat. For how expensive this anti-air boat is, clocking in at 250. Oh, I think they decreased the price on that actually. Maybe they decreased the price, and I'm not entirely sure. All I know is for the amount you pay for that anti-air, basically a quarter of the price of T2 anti-air, it feels like you get much less than a quarter of the value. I feel that way generally about the RAFSys system in general, that multi-launch anti-air light missile launcher. Feels a little underpowered for the price you pay and the investment you make for a tower that has no other benefit other than being slightly better than the light laser tower, or light anti-air tower. OG. Losing here to a good and proper 3v1. We've got heat ray tanks, hounds, and maces all coming out to the front line here. Those hounds will make very short work of that commander, and pop goes the powder blue commander. OG loses it on the front line, and suddenly this T2 base has a lot of work to do. Sharpshooter coming out is not a terrible idea here. We've got a lot of ideas. Yeah, we're kind of switching back and forth. Fat Boy, Hound, all this different stuff. We just need stuff on the front line, right? Stuff beats no stuff. Hey, look at that. Moi is redacting those T1 thugs, eating up all these T1 units to fund the T2 laboratory and the T2 unit production. That's fantastic stuff. That's a strategy I always preach because it is super, super viable. If you take all this T1 metal, if you lose all this T1 metal, give it to the enemy, it's a huge loss. But if you just reclaim these units, you get the full value out of them, and that can all go into T2, and suddenly you're in a fantastic position. Drones here providing perfect vision for those heat rays. You need a anti-air boat in order to do that job for the other two factions. For Legion, though, it's a much simpler affair. You simply send the drones in, and they will provide all the vision needed for those heat rays to fire away. Nicely done. The other benefit, of course, being that when those bullets connect with those drones, it does trigger that flanking bonus, meaning that you end up in a really nice spot here where you can basically do a big burst of extra damage while those 3 bullets connect. And if you have a bunch of drones, then obviously that effect is compounded. Sheldon firing away. We do have the Fat Boy out here now as well, but there is a anti-radar bot, meaning it's a little bit difficult for vision right now. Oh, Fat Boy and Hot Pink actually firing away. Not bad. Sheldon are making good work of it, and that grunt behind is also doing a wonderful job here. Again, activating that flanking bonus. It's hard to clarify exactly how much that flanking bonus matters, but it's a damage bonus of up to 90%, which is unheard of. Bunch of planes flying across right here. The vision is guaranteed, so that's actually a huge scout. That does mean that all of a sudden the red team knows exactly what the blue team is up to, at least on the front line as those planes fly overhead. Platypus are going to be sneaking all around here. We do have more and more of these Legion boats headed out. Those drones getting shot down a little bit here. We do have the Cauterizer, dual anti-ship Gauss cannon firing off into the distance, doing a lovely job. 5% damage on one of those destroyers per shot is pretty menacing, actually. Although it's missing. I don't know how that is happening, but anyway. These static defenses are super nice. The problem is, there's simply enough stuff here for the Green Commander. Launch has got to be feeling wonderful about the way that this one has gone. Overwhelming the red forces in the Navy, has got the T2 laboratory up and running. That Cortex T2 shipyard for now. And you can see as soon as we have that up and running, those T2 mexes are going to be the next priority. A couple of brimstones have also been produced here. The anti-swarm ships are going to be firing away quite literally here at the platypus, making their way across. The brimstone do quite a lot of damage. The platypus, though, move quite quickly, so they can kind of dodge the flamethrower spew. When the brimstone land the shot, though, it'll melt those down pretty quick. It's pretty nicely done. Can't help but notice we have not eaten the corpse here of that commander. That's also a free, basically a free donation of several hundred metal, if not several thousand. Yeah, 4,000 metal lying in ruin just right outside, right around the base here of the green commander. We have more than enough metal to start going for ridiculous eco-scaling. Oh, look at that. We even have an Octeris, the long-range cluster plasma cannon artillery vessel. Firing away a duplicate of cannons. It looks like they removed their triple cannons. I thought they had 3. I must be mistaken. Firing its duplicate cannons out, it fires a heavy cluster projectile, so it is actually pretty deadly, especially if it can target a wider structure or a big group of units. The individual damage on the shot is not terrible. It's supplemented a lot, though, by those cluster projectiles. So if those land, if those manage to connect with targets, suddenly the damage becomes much, much higher. Oh, look at the Maelstroms coming in here. Yeah, using their thin bottom bearings to manage to basically sneak in onto the water and kill, at the very least, a Fat Boy and some of those static defenses here. I guess they have a light anti-air. I forgot about that, but there we go. Drones being shot down. Hounds defending the front lines here. Sheldons and sharpshooters and Fat Boys galore have all made a wonderful work of reclaiming their homeland. And the blue team once more takes back the midline. Doesn't matter, though, with the amount of forces that are now coming out here on the tan side of the map. Suddenly the Lavender commander, well, the ball is in their court. If Lavender here can just send the units forward, can just overwhelm these defenses, maybe even kill this commander with some harassment from destroyers, that's a GG type of scenario. Torpedo bombers firing away here as well, trying to take out as much of this as possible. Again, that light anti-air is just tickling these torpedo bombers, not doing much at all. These will be more than happy to continue firing away here. Looks like the anti-air... the anti-air on the Brimstone is better than the anti-air on the anti-air boat. How cruel is that? Sharpshooters are so nice for dealing with these units. Sharpshooters are one of those few units that shuts down Decurion with ruthless efficiency. The fact that it can plink away at those Decurions from such long range, and then, of course, it basically kills... I think it's a 2-shot to kill a Decurion with Sharpshooters there. It means the Decurion can effectively lose all of their value, and at 300 metal a pop, they're quite an expensive investment. You really can't afford to be losing value on them like that. Arquebus, kind of the same as Sharpshooters, really. There they go, firing away. Fat Boy with 0% HP. And a Dream will go down. Rattlesnake firing into the distance here for both of these commanders. Both of them firing at each other, but the blue commander has the build power, so can sustain this. The yellow commander does not. In fact, can't actually hit the blue Rattlesnake because of the range advantage from being up on top of that hill. Nice little strategic maneuver there. We've actually, it looks like we've dropped a T2 Con to build a... Yeah, we're trying to build a T2 mechs over here. I'd love to see maybe a plasma cannon or two. No reason not to. Capital ship starts up for launch. Alright. We've got 1,800 metal. And we are starting up that capital ship. Let's see. Are these... Yeah, okay. So it's definitely been changed. As you can see, that fusion reactor. It still says it produces 1,000 energy, but I understood that that was not the case. Otherwise, this seems just remarkably more efficient. I'm not entirely sure, because that, if it produces 1,000 energy, then that is not better than it once was. Oh yeah, see, this says produces 12,000 energy, but it's actually producing 950. Okay, yeah, so it is significantly reduced. That would simply just be a bug, or it's probably just hasn't been updated for this game. I think this might have been playing with the tweak that set the changes, not the actual gameplay. Either way, that will be remedied shortly, I'm sure, to reflect the actual numbers. I'm curious what they are. Kind of determines how efficient it is, but It is not less efficient. Well, the fusions are less efficient. The Asolars are more efficient. It kind of creates a weird problem where it's like, do you scale with a bunch of Asolars, which are super difficult to scale with, you know, long term because they're super, super space intensive, or do you start going for these more expensive means, like, for instance, the Aphis, the fusions, just because they save you a little bit of space here. Need some anti-air turrets desperately here. Just like 2 AA would be enough. Just got to clear out some of that T1 airspace here. Bombers, coming around, hitting the E-converters. Okay. Well, this is the most deadly group of bombers I think we've seen so far. Oh, wow. Okay, we managed to take that down. All the bombers headed towards the E-converters. Oh, no. E-converters still pop just because of the bomber's corpse. How brutal is that? Purple Commander loses basically, yeah, all of the E-conversion just because the bomber went down in just the right spot. Meanwhile, EMP bombers actually are out here to try and paralyze a whole bunch of this. That's pretty cool to see. Abductors, gonna be picking up some units. Okay, nicely done. A little bit of an audio glitch there. Not sure what that was all about. The one praying mantis here holding those drones, or launching those drones anyways, trying to keep it all together. Oh, the drones do go down, though. Looks like all said and done, the EMP bombers will clean all this up. We're bringing the units back home. I don't know what we can self-T the transports to kill these units, or we can just capture them if we have a commander. Decoy commanders can also capture them if you want to set up like a capturing field. Big old clash over here. Those cauterizers are super mean, though. The amount of damage they can do is pretty nasty. They also have a lot of HP. They're basically meant as a viable defense, a inefficient but viable defense against destroyers. And it absolutely seems to be the case. It seems like we are struggling quite a lot here to penetrate these defenses. Couple of torpedo launchers to cover from subs, and of course an army to take a bunch of that damage. And the cauterizers seem to be pretty menacing. Now the Octeris does technically serve as in kind of the most beautiful way, serves as a anti-cauterizer, anti-stall tower sort of a thing. Which is very nice to see. Yeah, we're just going to chip away at these with the Octeris. Oh, that's beautiful. Lovely play out here from the Legion Commander, firing away with those plasma cannon boats. Those siege boats. They cost quite a lot, by the way. These are 1,400 metal a pop, so almost the same as like a T2 pop-up cannon, I believe. Comparable, anyways. Super, super expensive. The drones are very annoying, though. You need so much anti-air to take these down. They're surprisingly tanky. Taking, I think it's like 6 shots in order to go down here from the T1 anti-air. It is working on it, but every second that those are up, you're basically getting free value out of the vision that they get. I think finally there is enough torpedo launchers here that the cauterizer will be overwhelmed. At the very least, it will be bypassed. But there it goes. It does fall down. And quite suddenly, the yellow commander has the lead into the lavender base. Now, I'm not sure if the capital ship was abandoned here. Messenger debris. It looks like we were planning on firing at this AGO. I'm not sure why we stopped that idea, that progress. Oh, capital ship was not abandoned. There it is. Okay. Capital ship is on fire at will. We don't... Oh, we do have an anti-nuke ship. Okay, so we have the vision to fire away here. So this capital ship will start punching out into the distance. There's a jammer tower right here for... There's actually 2 jammer towers here for the pink commander. So at the very least, going to be slightly covered from any harassment from the capital ship. Do we have, like, vision of this? Oh, no, we don't have any vision. Okay. Nicely done, then, by, I want to say Sky Sovereign, who's managed to cloak the base, at the very least, from the capital ship's wrath. Kind of, anyway. Ducks now waddling their way out onto the high seas. There's another one of those weird intersections where Cortex T2 bots, because they are amphibious, they work underwater, the destroyers can't hit them. Lunkheads coming out here now. Okay. We hardly ever see the lunkheads, the heavy T3 hover tank of Armada. But actually kind of great in this certain situation here. Again, a hovercraft going up against the torpedo frigates. It just doesn't work. What a funky situation, but it's so usable. It's so workable. I kind of love that there's an extra dynamic to it now. Seaplay has an extra dimension to it. It's not simply more metal, more money, more problems. It's more units, more problems, really. There's more strategic depth to it, which is always nice. Oh, those are way too clumped up right there. Grunts running into the base, providing the vision for this capital ship to fire away. Build power nicely spread out, though, so it's not the end of the world. Fusion reactors, okay, producing 750. Wow. So that's a 25% energy reduction, but not a 25% metal cost reduction. Okay. That is pretty interesting. Fusions are still quite viable, though. 750 energy is nothing to scoff at. Yeah, it does make these a little bit more awkward to go into, though. Like, you can just go for solar panels, and it's kind of the same... It's kind of the same deal. It's just a lot less space efficient. That's basically the big trade-off that you're making now. You're trading space for efficiency. Maelstrom's trying to get involved over here. It looks like the Green Commander has sent these units the long way around in an attempt to help out over in this high seas. I think it will work eventually here, though. Sheldon firing off into the distance. Mammoths for protection, as well as those sumos as well, which is quite cool. T3 Navy. T2 Navy, rather. In the wrong spot. Buccaneers tearing apart the base over here. Those light lasers and heavy lasers firing away. Ripping through the armor plating here on all these buildings. And eventually I do think it means that this will be the end of the line here for the tank commander, at the very least. The red team in general. What are we going for? Oh. Sumo spamming. I see. That messenger blowing up that advanced geothermal. We do have more and more of these pawns running in every single second. That's the last commander down before the resign vote can be called, and the blue team manages to take the victory in today's game of Beyond All Reason. Certainly an excellent look at what we will be dealing with in the upcoming balance patch. Kind of a sneak peek, I would say, into what we are to expect. And certainly I could be considered excited to figure out exactly what that's going to mean. Whether advanced solar panels are finally viable, or whether fusions will continue to dominate. I'm curious whether cloaked fusions are going to be viable here as well. Lots to figure out, so stay tuned. Subscribe to the Brightworks if you'd like to see more games and you'd like to figure out the meta alongside us. And more importantly than all of that, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you again in the very next match of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.